All right. Welcome back, guys. We have a few things to take a look at. To be honest, today I didn't think that you guys wanted to see me come live again. The last live stream that we had lasted almost 4 hours. I had an almost 2-hour stream the first half, and then an over 2-hour stream the second half. Today, we're going to be looking at something that took place at TSU, Tennessee State University. We're going to start with that because that's the big story that's on my mind right now. And I'd like to know your thoughts of this, this thing that's going on, where it appears that leftists, okay, my wife doesn't like me calling them leftists. All right, we're Christians, and we like to speak in ways that don't divide. But when people behave a certain way and you describe the way they're behaving, then, it just sticks. Okay, it just sticks. Yes, Canary King, I am live. Don't worry. I'm I'm going to just show my face for a bit. All right, I'm just going to show my face for a bit, and then I'm going to hide again, okay? Because there, I'm here, I'm live, okay? So I am not dressed for the occasion, so I just want to, be respectful and hide my face. So I'm experimenting using an avatar while I create videos occasionally, like when I'm not as decent as I should be. Canary King, this is for you, okay? Anyone else who's watching, you happen to be a passenger. Canary King is the person that initiated the live stream. So I'm dedicating this live stream to Canary King, okay? So if you want a live stream to be dedicated to you, be the one to ask for one next time. So here's the thing. We're experiencing a shift in the ethos of the United States. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Canary King just said he likes my avatar. So if you're up and you're watching, please engage in the chat. There's a few things we're going to talk about today. We're going to be live for roughly an hour plus today. So let's just really engage here. So TSU released a statement on the heels of a certain video that started making the rounds, okay? And I'm going to read their statement. And when I play the video, I want you guys to tell me if they, TSU, are being truthful. Today, a group of individuals unaffiliated with Tennessee State University appeared on campus without prior notice, so they need to be given notice. In accordance with university policy, any demonstration or protest activity requires advance approval and permitting. Yeah, my avatar needs glasses. Yeah. All right, so moving on. Campus police and staff responded promptly, and the individuals were escorted from university grounds without incident. Now, these guys didn't come for a protest. They came to have a dialogue. So according to the university, free speech is a protest. Are you following? Free speech is a form of protest. At all times, TSU students conducted themselves in a professional and respectful manner. The safety and well-being of our students, faculty, and staff remain our highest priority. TSU will continue to uphold university policies and ensure that campus remains a safe, welcoming, and orderly environment for all members of our community. Now, I'm going to play what the respectful students did, all right? Oops, yeah, so here they are. These are the respectful, okay, hold on. I'm gonna start from the beginning. So respectful. Yeah, so respectful. Swear words, flipping the bird.
Oh my gosh, they threw a drink up
throwing drinks.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa, whoa,
Did somebody just throw something in our car?
Arrest. They just try to hit the car.
BLM.
Whoa! That was loud.
Now I'm going to rewind to this beautiful scene of decorum. Yeah, that guy. There's a pattern that we're noticing. And that pattern is every time people do bad things to conservatives, they are being respectful and professional. When you say things like that, and people who behave like these kids just behaved, hear you say that, what you're telling them is, do that again. Keep doing that. I've said again and again that conservative voices who visit these campuses have to worry about security. They have to worry about their safety. And we keep hearing on mainstream media how all of the violence is coming from the right. Tennessee State University said these people were professional and respectful. Now, I'm going to play something from Hillary Clinton. Hillary, again, the gift that keeps on giving. These are the people who say that conservatives should turn down the rhetoric. They say things that triggers a reaction among their base. And when their base acts a certain way, they turn around and say, well, actually, all the violence is coming from one side and it's not us.
We haven't gotten to the more perfect union, and we fought a civil war over part of it. Mm-hmm. And people have been protesting, for hundreds of years that, things were not as they should be, given our ideals and how we should be moving toward them. So I think that's what makes us so special as a country. And the idea that you could turn the clock back and try to recreate a world that never was, dominated by, let's say it, white men of a certain persuasion, a certain religion, a certain point of view, a certain ideology.
So let's just say what she's trying very hard not to say. White, Christian, conservatives. That's what she's trying to say. This is all about creating a world where God doesn't exist. Now, I don't know, those of you who are watching, what religion you profess to, but I believe that the United States, and based on documents, was founded by Christians. And the intent was that it would be a Christian nation. The Puritans were kicked out of, they were persuaded to move to a new continent because the English, with their society, wanted things a certain way, and they didn't want the Puritans, spoiling their fun. The Puritans wanted a deeper, more committed walk with God, but the regular Catholic and Anglican Christians there just felt like these guys are too deep for us. So let's persuade them to move to a new continent. And they did. And they landed and made a covenant to say this land will be a Christian nation. Hundreds of years later, you have the likes of Hillary Clinton claiming that, that conservatives want to take America back to a reality that never was. Now, my take is very unpopular, but let's just tell the truth. If something happened a certain way, let's say it happened a certain way. But one thing is equally true, and that is that the Christian ethos that was demonstrated by the founding fathers created an opportunity for other religions to come to the United States and to thrive. Now, some of the people who have been allowed to thrive and have a say in politics don't want Christians to thrive or have a say. They're being demonized. And people are claiming that anyone who wants to go back to the Christian values that built America is a white nationalist, is racist, and is backward. Now, let's look at the term backward. The term backward is such a weird word to say when you see this kind of behavior happening. I'm going to pause and just skip forward. You see this kind of behavior happening. Okay, this isn't civilized behavior. All right, this isn't civilized behavior. This is not civilized behavior. This is why I'm honestly considering not sending my kids to college. It's an honest consideration. You send them off to college, and honestly, God forbid that I get a student loan for my kids. I'm hoping, I'm praying that I don't have to do that. Okay? And that's why I'm working so hard. All right? You send your daughter off to college, and this is who she becomes. All right? And then BLM, after everything we found out that BLM did with the donations that were sent to help, the oppressed Black communities, these kids are so uninformed. It's like they live in a bubble that's like a steel trap. Nothing gets in. All the information that's out there about who BLM is and what their agenda is doesn't register. And you know what? Hey, as a teenager, while I was in high school, there was this, so we had the Cosby Show playing, and we also had a different world. The Cosby Show led into a different world. And the Cosby Show was really like family and, raising kids, and it was fun and it was comic and, it was funny. It was great. And then the natural successor of the Cosby Show was A Different World. And we began to watch A Different World, and the picture of college that was being painted by A Different World was kids hanging out in the hallways, holding their folders, and chatting up pretty girls, having dates, making out in corners. That was the picture of college for Black people that was, being portrayed on A Different World. For us as teenagers, it was nice. And when you have your hormones raging, you want to have some of that experience. Looking back, I'm like, how naive you were, because you don't go to university to make out in corners, have girlfriends, and that's all the university experience is all about. College experience is about getting an education and becoming a constructive contributor to the society. This guy here, he isn't dressed like anyone who is preparing to be a responsible person in the society. I'll just put it out there. We're not saying that people should be stuck up, but at least if you're going to dress on campus, dress properly. And you know what's going to happen? I'm going to predict this. Any school that begins to enforce dress codes is going to be slapped with either a lawsuit or some kind of article that says that they are attacking Black culture. Black culture doesn't support being a slob. That's a creation. All right. I'm going to respond to that bit. Okay. All right. There's a chat that came in, and Canary King, I'm going to respond to that. And I want us to just talk about it, okay, slowly and carefully. We will talk about it slowly and carefully. Black culture should not be reduced to people dressing like gangsters, dressing like prostitutes, dressing like people who aren't being prepared to lead. When you look at the United Nations, okay, so even though I'm not a big fan of the United Nations, let's look at what people dress like at the United Nations. The men and the women, they look respectful, they look responsible, they dress well. The women dress modestly, the men dress in a way that makes them look like they are leaders. So when we try to raise kids and they come to college dressed this way, and the college has no standards of behavior, where after you see kids behaving this way, you send out, you need security to escort these guys off the campus. All right? You need security to escort them off the campus, else these guys would have wrecked their vehicle and possibly done harm. Yeah, and there's this thing about dreadlocks. I'm sorry. I'm going to go off on a tangent. Canary King, keep the chats coming. I am going to address every single one of your comments. I am. All right. Now, if you're watching, go to the live chat, please, and drop an observation or something you want to contribute. He's dropping some really great talking points, and I'm going to talk about them. I have an issue with black men and dreadlocks. All right. People who wear dreadlocks don't lead countries. That has been a fact. There is a way that people see you. You know, there's a statement that I learned years ago: dress the way you want to be addressed. If you never met me, look, there are people that join the live stream when I have my camera on, and they see a black man doing a live stream, and dude, I don't blame them, because people are attracted to people who look like them. All right. It's not about being racist. It's just that people are attracted to people who look like them. Okay. At the base of our nature. All right. Now, if someone turns on and sees someone they don't know looking, like me and talking about American politics and sounding like me, they get turned off, because it's like, okay, this person doesn't know what he's talking about. And then they tune off. And I get it. Now, to make it worse, you have someone who's supposed to be a professional, a medical doctor, and he's wearing dreadlocks. Nah, it's a turnoff. For starters, dreadlocks, in my opinion, and feel free to throw stones at me, dreadlocks are nasty. Right? They're dirty, they're nasty, they look unclean, and I don't like them. And that's a personal thing. And there are millions of people out there who don't like dreadlocks. Dreadlocks work if you are an entertainer. People will forgive you for having dreadlocks if you're an entertainer. And as an entertainer, you can dress anyhow. You can, dress your hair anyhow you like. Look at what's his name? Is it Little John or Little Willie, the black rock and roller? You know, at over 60, he was still wearing his wig. Okay, yeah, he's rich, he's popular, he doesn't care. But to be honest, he's old. He doesn't look like someone I would trust the running of my city to. And he still acts like he's a rock star. It's old. We'll talk about dreadlocks. We'll talk about dreadlocks and the origin of dreadlocks. Okay, so I've had my rant about TSU, and let me answer the questions in the chat. All right. Now, the first thing that you said was, can I ask though, did I miss the part of the history where Africans were kidnapped, packed on ships, and put on chains to build the nation? All right, so let me start from the last statement, to build the nation. The black people who were sold into slavery were not brought to America to build the nation. They were brought there to serve their slave masters. That's the purpose. No one had the foresight to say, these people are going to build the nation. They worked the plantations. Most of them worked the plantations. Some of them did other jobs that allowed them to eventually buy their freedom. But that was the purpose, to work for their masters. The narrative that black people were stolen from Africa and they magically built the United States, while Africa, if you haven't been to Africa, I'm from Africa. I lived there for over 40 years. And my experience in Africa is that most of the time we don't build things. We don't. The ones who attempt to build stuff get sabotaged by others who don't want you to outshine them. That is the experience of the average Africans. Okay, so you're asking me to slow down. All right, so what do you want? Canary King, we're going to do something very soon. All right. Canary King, if I gave you a Discord link, would you join the Discord server and then we could do an actual voice call? Because now you're interrupting, and I'm trying to answer your question, but it's like we're circling. Okay, I'm going too fast. I'm going to listen to you. Okay, so you want to unpack that? Ask me the question. All right, 2 points I made. All right, first point, to build a nation. Okay. All right. Here's what I'm going to do. All right. And this is going to this is your live stream, Canary King. Answer me this. Will you be able to join the Discord server so I can bring you in on an actual voice conversation so that we can have an exchange? I don't want to have a delay, and I'm hoping that this doesn't mess things up. Okay, but I would really like to have this conversation in a fluid way. All right, so I'm just going to see if this will work, but keep putting your points out there. I'm going to read your points and then I'm going to respond to your points. If you're joining this live stream, I'm having a conversation in the chat. So you can join the chat and actually post your opinion. Okay, Canary King doesn't know what a Discord is. All right, so we're going to just let that go. We will let that go and we won't do that today. We won't do that today. We won't do that today. Maybe the next time I do a live stream, I will use software that we can actually, let's see, can I? No, it's too complicated. All right, so let's go. First point, you said that it's well established that slavery built the nation. And why do you say that? Why do you say that slavery built the nation? Why do you say that slavery built the nation? It is also well established that slave dealing nations are the ones that are wealthy today. That is not true. That is not true. Did you ever hear of the Barbary slave trade of North Africa? The Barbary slave traders of North Africa, and there's a lot of slavery still happening in North Africa today. It's just not widely reported. Okay, so if you've put out your points, okay, I would like to have some time to talk about your points. Imagine your annual salary, multiply that by 100 million people and multiply that by 400 years. It is unconscionable wealth. All right. Annual salary. Okay. My definition of slavery isn't plantation slavery. I'm trying to understand. So when someone says slavery and use the broad term slavery, and they say that is what built America, that is not entirely true. In fact, the contribution that slavery made to the wealth of America is quite low. Why is that? It wasn't until America embraced industrialization where the North began to invest. Now, why was it that the North was wealthier than the South? And this is long before America began to reckon on the world stage. All right. This was before the Civil War. Before the Civil War, it was well established that freed slaves, were thriving in the North. Yes, I'm trying to break this down very carefully, and I don't want to, and mind you, I'm not dismissing the fact that slavery did happen. I'm not dismissing the fact that people, have ancestors who were former slaves in the United States. I don't discount that fact. But I want us to look at it. There was slavery in the North. However, it wasn't half as much as there was in the South. There wasn't. the abolitionist movement was happening in the North. They first of all pushed for slaves to be freed in the North, and then they began to push for slaves to be freed in the South, and that is where most of the conflict started. The northern states invested more in industrialized work. All right, so Canary King, when you make a statement like that, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to fact check our conversation with ChatGPT. Okay, I'll just make ChatGPT the referee. All right. Were there slaves in Northern America after they embraced industrialized work? All right. So I'm just going to, more wealth was created in the North than the South. Yes, and it was because of the industrialization. Colonial, so that is my take. So let's see what ChatGPT gives us from all of the knowledge. It says colonial and early U.S. period, slavery existed in the North during colonial times. States like New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and so on had slaves, enslaved people who worked in households, shipyards, docks, and even early mills. Gradual abolition. By the late 1700s and early 1800s, most northern states began passing gradual emancipation laws, just like I said. For example, Pennsylvania's law, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the Industrial Revolution, the Industrial Revolution's role. As northern states industrialized, late 70s into early 80s, labor demand shifted from enslaved agricultural work to wage labor in factories. The northern economy increasingly relied on immigrant labor, okay, Irish, German, later Italians, rather than enslaved Africans. However, slavery did not disappear instantly. I'm reading from ChatGPT. Okay, it's not me. I did it in real time, so it's not like I have this all archived and this is ChatGPT. However, slavery did not disappear instantly, just like I said, when industrialization started. In fact, enslaved workers still lived in northern states well into the 19th century, overlapping with the rise of factories. By the time the U.S. fully embraced industrialized, yes, I did, and I also said that slavery did exist in the North, but not as much as it did in the South. I said that earlier already. By the time the U.S. fully embraced industrial capitalism between the 1830s and the 1860s, legal slavery had mostly disappeared in the North. Here. So this is my statement. But its economic legacy persisted. Northern factories profited from Southern cotton grown by enslaved labor because the South. All right, I've paused a bit. So what do you want me to cover? Now, guys, if you're watching live, I'm having a conversation in the chat. All right. I covered the situation in Tennessee State University, and then the conversation in the chat went into clarifying some statements about slavery. So that's why we're having this conversation. If you want to contribute to the conversation and there's something you hear that you want to add to, please consider leaving a chat so that we can also add your conversation to the mix. Okay. Let's see. So you admit that slavery created wealth in the North. I said it contributed. If you go back and rewatch the live stream, you would hear me say that slavery contributed, but I would say not in a large part as much as industrialization did for America. Yes, because, okay, so slave ships were mostly built in the North, and that is because the North was the part of the United States that manufactured things. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do something. Hang on, I'm going to do something. I'm going to put the two chat streams side by side on my screen. Okay? Because I'm losing some of you. Some of you are watching and you don't know what we're talking about. So I'm going to just do this. I'm going to move this screen to the side. Okay, I'm going to move this screen to the side, this browser to the side. All right. Let me close this. And then I'm going to create two windows. All right. These two windows are going to represent the two streams that are happening. I want us to have a very open conversation. And those of you who are watching on the backup channel, please feel free to leave your chat. I'm going to give you a window into what the conversation is looking like. All right. Now, is slavery horrible? Yes. I despise slavery. What I'm doing here is helping us, I'm helping myself to see the history and the legacy of slavery through clear eyes. We're going to look at history, we're going to look at the data, and then we'll just come up with basic conclusions, because anyone can get up and make claims and say, anyone can make claims and say that this thing is the reason why that thing happened. All right. So this is the screen on the left is the backup stream or backup channel. The stream on the right is the main channel. All right, where most of the conversation is happening. All right, so those of you that are watching, you can see where the conversation is coming from. So if your window is empty, it's on you. All right, so I need you guys to please engage. It'll be great to see you contribute to this conversation. All right, and you can even see the concurrent viewers. Like I said, my live streams are not where most of my viewers come from, but I would like my live stream to eventually become that. All right, so we just looked at ChatGPT, and ChatGPT gave us a response about how industrialization moved the focus from slave labor to industrialized and mechanized labor in the North. Now, let's have very straightforward conversations, because the North, I want to treat the North and the South as amoral entities. And that means we're not going to say that they are evil or good. No, Canary King, I am informed based on my studies, and I just showed you what I found on ChatGPT. Like, when we do research, we research by reading books, and we also do, like, when we learn from people, we say, okay, here's what they said, and here's what the information says. All right. No. Okay, I need us to slow down. When I said that I want us to treat the North and the South as amoral entities, it's for my own benefit, so that it's not like we say the North, didn't have slaves, therefore they are the good guys. The South had slaves, therefore they are the evil guys. I'm trying to look at things through a lens that allows us to see possibly what was going on behind the scenes. The North was, just like you mentioned, the slave ships were mostly... Okay, so I'm going to address your current post. What I'm trying to see is the things that that were helpful to the North, or that allowed the North to abolish slavery quicker than the South did. The North kept people who were shipbuilders from Ireland, okay, and from Europe. The immigrants from Ireland and Europe who knew how to build ships, who brought the knowledge of mechanical engineering and shipbuilding. They settled mostly in New York, okay, and that was where the ships were built most of the time. They began to build these ships, and they began to embrace more mechanized work faster than the South did. Okay, so what I'm trying to point out is the North may have embraced mechanized work, not just because they were being altruistic, but because it was cheaper to run machines, and they were already making more revenue from building ships and other things that are, the point is wealth built by, yes, the point is wealth built by slavery. But I said that the actual wealth built by slavery isn't as much as the wealth built by industrialization. And that's the point that I was trying to make. If you followed my train of thought, and I hope the connection is actually allowing us have a stream of conversation that makes sense. Okay. And this is a conversation that we can have, and have our back and forth on it. I just read, ChatGPT, you said that ChatGPT contradicted my claims. And I said, well, I don't think it did, because I did say that that there was slavery in the North, but not as much as they had in the South. Shipping was built by slavery. All right, so there's only one way to examine this, and for me, that would be to have an economist look back and say, this is actually what happened. How many ships do you need to transport 100 million people from Africa to the Americas and to Europe? The transatlantic slave trade ran for over 100 years. So it wouldn't be a massive fleet of ships. No. You don't use a ship and discard it. They weren't building 400 ships a year. I don't think that that's the way to look at it. So okay, so Canary King, I want us to I'm going to do a video, or not a video. We're going to have a live stream where we focus on this. I'm going to show you some reporting. I'm just going to check online, find a few things, and I would like you to also have a few things that you can contribute to the conversation. And then, okay, this is your area of expertise. Okay, good. So bring the data you have, okay, the public domain data you have, and then we'll take a look at it. Okay, now if if slavery contributed to the growth of America, because let's be frank, the oil industry and the steel industry played a huge role in the American economy. All right. Yeah, I respect your knowledge in this space. I respect your knowledge in this space. But I want us to look at the facts, all right? And then we're going to just talk through it. And it can't happen during this stream, because already we've spent almost 20 minutes talking about this. And I don't think we're going to reach a proper conclusion on the conversation, because there's a bunch of things that I would like to bring up and show. Like I've already shown the ChatGPT report here, and then the question is, what are the data points to show that, let me just try something on ChatGPT. Can you do a financial report proving whether slavery is or was responsible for building America, the United States. The United States of America. I just want to see what ChatGPT will do. All right. So, not contributed. It was the defining factor of wealth building for the U.S. and certain European nations. Can I make a suggestion? ChatGPT contradicted you. Yeah, look, where did ChatGPT contradict me? The text is on the screen. So please show me where ChatGPT contradicted me. I'm going to zoom in. Okay, let me zoom in a little. I hope it's showing up properly on the screen. So if you can see the screen clearly, tell me which line or which paragraph because I need to know where ChatGPT contradicted me within this reading so that I can learn. Because I'm like, okay, I read everything and they're consistent with the way I was thinking while I was speaking. So maybe if I said something that maybe didn't come out right, I would like you to point it out and say, hey, here's what ChatGPT said and I feel like that contradicted you, and then I'll explain myself. So the text is on the screen, all right? Can you just tell me which one, and then I can learn if I didn't communicate it properly. Let's review hard data by scholars, okay? All right, so why we're starting with AI, because AI has access to most of the white papers and writings and most of the data that's out there already. And I don't own ChatGPT. And ChatGPT could come back with a report that I don't like. Okay. Concise first numbers. Okay. So here's the report. Okay. So what's the conclusion? Bottom line. Okay. So I asked ChatGPT to do this. I said to ChatGPT, can you do a financial report proving whether slavery was responsible for building the United States of America? All right. And then I'm going to look at this. Bottom line, if built means accounted for the majority of national output or wealth, the data do not support that claim. Enslaved labor output share was well below 50%. Cotton's export dominance did not translate into GDP dominance. If built means provided critical fuel for trade, finance, capital accumulation in the South, and lucrative northern commercial industrial linkages, then yes, slavery, especially cotton, was a central engine within a larger multi-engine economy. So this is simply saying the same thing both of us are saying. It is. You're pointing out that it was critical to certain engines in the economy, and I am claiming that it didn't account for the majority when you consider industrialization and even export. Because when Standard Oil started growing and making a ton of money, okay, the United States began to grow in energy dominance. Manufacturing thrived, and then they began to export other things that the world wanted. So yes, like both of us are right. You understand? For the reason why I like having these kinds of conversations is that I get to learn something new. And if there's something that I'm wrong about, I'm corrected. And for me, my perspective is there is, when you make a statement, you have to define what that statement is meant to cover. And if the statement doesn't cover the right parameters, you're going to get into an argument. Both of you are right. It's like arguing with your wife. No. Look, this is not a zero-sum game. It's not a zero-sum game. Okay? It's like the argument whether white people are evil because their ancestors owned slaves. Okay? Dude, I just got through saying, yes, it had its own contribution within a context, and no, it didn't within a different context. Okay, so if it is within the context that you are looking at, then yes. If it is within the context that I am looking at, because this is the context I am looking at. When someone says something is responsible for the wealth of the United States, what I'm looking at is macro. All right. No. Okay. This is why trying to respond during the live stream is really hard. I'm referring to making a zero-sum conversation around certain topics. Okay. If we're talking about things like this, there are nuances to the conversation. Oh, no. Yeah. We're not bringing that in. I was just giving an example. When you're considering certain topics or conversations, there are ways to look at things, and the context matters. If you're not looking at the right context, the answers come out the wrong way. It's like having an equation, and if you put in one variable in the equation, it produces a very different result. All right. So you are right, and I am right. So I'll just leave it. I'll leave it at that. Okay. I'll leave it at that. So let's go back. Let's go back to the original conversation. All right. The guys in Tennessee. We have a few minutes left on this stream. Canary King, I enjoy live streaming and having these conversations with you. So let's do this more. All right. We're talking economics, yeah, but let's do this more. So you asked other questions, and let me be fair, I have to answer. No, I don't have to be right. I don't have to be right. I try to get as much information as I can, because I get to sit here, and most of the time I speak without a script. I need to know what I'm talking about. Sometimes I get it wrong, so I desperately hate to be wrong. I desperately hate to be wrong. I want to know what I'm talking about, so that when I open my mouth and I'm speaking off the cuff, I need to be sure that I'm saying the right thing. All right. So Canary King, you're being a good sport. Thanks for laughing with me. All right. Now let's look at the other things that you pointed out. All right. Before we land this plane. Oh, no, 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 no. I love listening to different opinions. I like having good faith conversations. You understand? Look, if I lived in the US, all right, if I lived in the United States between 1977, when I was born, and 2016, it's very likely that I would have been, no, not very likely, I would have been Democrat. I'm just pointing this out because my mom, like she had very strong Democrat leanings. You know, my exposure was to Democrat leanings, and I loved Democrat politicians. And then I started seeing some things going on during the 2016 campaign trail, and I was like, hey, something is going on here. And after that, and the first 4 years of Trump, I was like, okay, there's something very wrong here. So for me, it's hard to see that you have to change your mind on certain things, and I know how hard it is for a lot of people to change their minds, you know. But when you see that you're wrong about something and you're clearly wrong about it, you know, you just need to own up and just make the adjustments in your heart. So, you know, let's just see if we can catch up on the other things that you pointed out. Jeez, you've posted a lot of stuff. All right. Okay. We talked about slavery. I talked about my problems with okay, yeah. So here are the things that were pointed out. You talked about you know, the escalator being turned off at the UN. All right. You said, by the way, it's very clear that Trump's escalator was turned off. And it was quite obvious. When Trump made his speech, he made it sound like the escalator ran for a while and then it stopped halfway. But it looked like the people operating the escalator just couldn't wait to embarrass him and have an old 79-year-old man walk up the stairs. You know, like that's how it felt to me. And I think you're right. And I also feel the same way, that this was sabotage. The live stream I did yesterday, I did show the report, and I think I can do that today. I showed the report where people, I think it was a London Times report that showed that there were employees of the UN that said that they were going to do something like this, you know, and I covered this video yesterday. So I'll just play this real quick. All right. So this is the report. So
escalator gate at the UN today. Trump arrived today at the UN conference, and as he was approaching the escalator, he gets on with Melania, and it works for about a second or so, and then it stops. Trump, as you can see, is a little bit like, wait a second, what happened here? And I will say, I'm surprised Secret Service didn't cover him. I know that sounds dramatic, but that can't be happening. On Sunday, the Times reported to mark Trump's arrival, UN staff members have joked that they may turn off the escalators and elevators and simply tell them they ran out of money.
Yeah, so you can see that this was premeditated. It was premeditated. And I gave my thoughts on the matter. I am not an American citizen, but I think that if anyone treated my president the way the UN staffers treated the president, in fact, the United States should pull out of funding the UN. And personally, I would push for the UN returning the plot that the United States gave the UN. They are living there. Are they living there rent-free? Okay. Someone let me know in the live chat. Is the UN building on that plot of property rent free. Like the US give it to them whole hog, and they don't have to pay rent. Because if your country is possibly the biggest funder of the United Nations, and you treat the president that way, and they are your host. All right. So let me ask you a question, okay? If you're watching, and someone, you allow someone to live in your home, and you give them a room in your home. And once you stepped and you figured, okay, you pay them a visit, they invited you to step into their room, and you went into the room to say hi. And once you walked into the room, they pulled a very mean prank on you. And it was very clear that this was a mean-spirited prank. Will they still be living in your house? Like that's just a question. It was very clear this is mean-spirited. They're trying to embarrass you. They're not paying rent. They're living in your house, and they treat you this way. So for me, that's just me, because the sad thing about how the world views the U.S. is that the U.S. treats the world with a lot of conscientiousness. And that means the U.S. thinks we're big, they can't hurt us, so there's no need to do something that will hurt them. And that's really the way a lot of Americans feel. All right. The United States is big and can take it. But because the United States can take it, does it mean that the United States has to take it? All right. So they did sabotage the elevator. All right. The next thing that you mentioned, you said that the South African president, his mic was turned off when he was chastising Israel. And I did say, all right, yeah, I'm wrapping up the stream. All right. I did say that I'll be on for under an hour. All right. Catch you later. Bye. I did say that because the UN has been known to do things that don't favor Israel, it's hard to accept the claim that because this happened while the South African president was chastising Israel, that this is an Israel cover-up. So I don't know if that is a valid argument. But a lot of snafus took place during the speech at the UN, and it's just something, to take note of. All right. Well, we did say that we were going to go live only for about an hour, and we are at about that mark right now. Let me see. Yeah, we're good. We're over an hour. So thank you so much for being a part of the stream, Kanavikin. Thank you for the very spirited conversation. I do like to have these kinds of things, discussed. I didn't plan to do a live stream today, but I figured that since there was a request for it, I decided to go live. I have new videos published today on the channel. Please consider going to the main channel to watch these new videos, and let me know your thoughts. And please, if you're running into this content for the first time, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing the video. And if you can, leave a super chat or a super thank to appreciate the work that we're doing. And we do want to invite you to join the membership. You join the Crossroads family, and by doing that, you get to contribute to the community by voting on the direction of the channel, of doing a monthly subscription that keeps us independent, and honestly, it helps us expand the channel and become more effective at providing you with valuable content. Right. Thank you so much for being a part of this live stream, and until next time, God bless you. And I'll